a night. What a night. What a night. Welcome to the Thirsty Checkdown on Tuesday.
Thursday.
Hey, folks, we got a very special guest tonight, but let's first talk about who we are. We got my good friend Rick Brusuelas. We got my better friend Tipp Major. Nah, he's not better.
Anyway. Oh, no. I would like to know. Thank you, Greg, for saying I'm the
it
better
slipped
friend.
out, Rick. I apologize. I do.
Oh, no.
Anyway, we got Rick and Tipp with us tonight.
He's got a favorite, and it's not me.
And I got to tell you, it's going to be a really good night. Now, we at the Sports Affiliation, we host several podcasts. We got a new one coming out that I think you guys are going to love. Tipp is excited about it. It's called Hypotheticals. Man. And there's one up already, actually, too, the Commish and Max Crosby. And what we do is we're treating it like Marvel's multiverse of madness. Basically, we're saying, what if this player ended up on this team? And it could be a trade candidate, it could be a cut candidate, could be a free agent, could be a rookie, could be somebody that, hey, we just want to know what would happen if they went there. So we're going to try to drop several players a week. Hopefully 2 per day, offense and defense. Tipp's going to be taking part. I did one with David Montgomery, and I got to tell you, the graphics that JC is putting together, mind-blowing.
Sick.
Get out on our YouTube page, the Sports Affiliation. Get out there and subscribe so you get notified when these come out. And check out the Max Crosby one. That graphic it's sick. It really is. But anyway, our focus is helping you guys, all right? And to do that, you're going to want to know, what about all these players that were injured last year? Some of them were injured in January. Are they going to be ready for next year now? Well, I'm not a doctor. Rick's not a doctor. Tipp's not a doctor. But our guest tonight is Mr. or Dr. Kevin Word. And he actually is a doctor. So, Kevin, I'm not going to let Tipp tell me what's going on. I'm not going to let Rick tell me what's going on. Why don't you tell us what you're doing over at Football Guys and Football Unlimited? Tell us what you're doing, buddy.
Well, man, I appreciate being here. A huge fan of everything you guys do. Obviously, Hall of Famers like yourself. It's an honor to be in your presence. Tipp, you're my guy. I love spending some time with you. Rick, it's a pleasure to be here. But obviously, for me, my passion, long before becoming a doctor, it's really about fantasy football. It's the commissioner thing. It's just making leagues fun. So my background really goes back quite a ways, just loving this game. Yeah, that's the foundation of it all, the league experience. And
if it ain't fun,
yeah,
why do it?
Exactly. So
I love who you got over your right shoulder. And I'm not talking about Jerry.
Rice, yeah.
I'm not talking about Jerry. I'm talking about Barry.
Yeah,
I love that Barry. That's a Detroit fan, baby.
What a duo! But yeah, Barry. I mean, he's my guy. He's been my guy my entire existence. I think Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays because I used to spend it with Barry. Every year. So love all that. But yeah, no. Again, just love fantasy. Love this game. It's blessed me with a lot of cool opportunities. We'll talk a little bit about some of that stuff as we go. But Football Guys, they wanted me to bring in some of the commissioner stuff. In fact, the commissioner or the Football Guys base with just more passion for the league experience. It's something I love so much.
You won a big award from Pizza Hut and ESPN for Commissioner of the Week or year. What was it?
Yeah, it's Commissioner of the Week, but it's I was named Commissioner of the Year through that contest.
Oh my God! I mean, that was 2016. So you've been doing this commissioner thing for a while. Tell us about the award. Was there money involved? Was there a trophy, something?
So basically it was a contest. ESPN and Pizza Hut put together a contest looking for the best commissioner out there. And so each week of the season, they would award a commissioner of the week. And at the end of the season, they put a panel together that selected the commissioner of the year. And it was a cool package. It was amazing. I got to fly out to Bristol and spend the day out at ESPN and meet the entire ESPN fantasy crew back in the day. So that time it was Matthew Berry and Stephania Bale and Phil Yates and Daniel Dopp and Mike Clay and several others.
Well, I love Mike.
Isn't
Mike with Football Guys?
What's that? Yeah,
Is
at
Mike
one
with football
point.
guys?
At one
Yeah.
point. So I got to go out there, meet that entire crew, spend the whole day out there. I got to bring a buddy with me. So it was an amazing experience. It really kind of started my, it was a big moment for me to think, I love what I do professionally. I love what I do, on the side with fantasy. I want to get more involved with fantasy. And so, cool award. But yeah, I got to go out to ESPN. I got a $10,000 Commissioner of the Year ring. I got
wow.
I got a red, red blazer. If you ever see me in a picture with a red blazer back in the day, that was just a custom blazer made by ESPN. I got pizza for like 3 years, unlimited pizza.
3 years
I
pizza.
was gonna ask how
Man,
much stuff did you
it's
get?
amazing that you look the way you look, because I would have bloated. I would have.
I mean, I have this gift card of pizza. I still have it. I got it framed somewhere. This gift card from Pizza Hut.
So wait. I got a question.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
I got a question, Dr. Kevin. Hold on.
Yeah.
So with that card, if you wanted pizza every day, you could have pizza every day for 3 years.
Yeah, they kind of put together a limit. It was like a $3,000 card essentially for pizza,
wow.
and it took us 3 years plus to get through it. A lot of hosting, it was a lot of fun.
Wow.
So it
And then I
wasn't
think
limited to 3 years. It was just three.
It was
rounds.
it was really. It was
But
really,
I mean, yeah,
funny.
$10
And then,
pizza.
Yeah,
was
but
their
I mean, they got
calculations.
$9.99 specials. You could have gotten
It was.
you could
We
have
did
gotten
well.
300 pizzas, man.
Yeah, we did well. I appreciate Pizza Hut for that. And then there was like a $5,000 Amazon card. I mean, it was just there was more. They took us to the ESPN store and they said, grab a bunch of stuff that you like, and then sure enough, they got it for us. So it was a crazy experience. It was, it was really the reason why I discovered everything outside of the fantasy space, just beyond.
Are you married?
I am. Yep.
Did you take your wife?
Oh yeah. So my wife and daughter.
I was going to say, you said take a friend.
Yeah.
You better take your wife on that trip.
They came out to New York with me. They picked us up in New York. I had my buddy come out. He flew out. They paid for him. So then ESPN picked us up in New York, drove us out to Bristol. So it was pretty amazing. While my wife and daughter went, did New York and went to play. All that kind of stuff. So, amazing experience. It was definitely the pivotal moment in my my fantasy universe, and it really kind of led to everything that I'm doing these days.
Well, I got to tell you, I love this game. I've been playing since '86, been writing since '90, and you're a member of FSWA, I hope.
Yep.
Okay, so you're headed for the Hall of Fame. I mean, because you're everywhere. No, you are. You're headed for, and you work with Matt. Matt and I went in together, so you're headed there. So let's do what we're here tonight for. We want to talk about the players that got injured, and I know that I probably missed some, but I know that you won't, because I gave you the list of what I had. I want to start it off with Danny Jones. I mean, last year he rocked the fantasy world with the Colts. You got something to say?
Great. Before we get to individual players, and this might help people that are watching, they'll certainly give me help. I wanted to ask, just in general, what is the best source of information for injury or health, news on players? Is there a website that you tend to go to, or are you basically calling all the league or team offices and saying, hey, what's the latest on player?
Steve Cohen used to be my guy. I used to go to Steve for it, but now I'm going to Kevin.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great injury analysts out there. Obviously Stephania Bell is the GOAT, I think, in my opinion. Just, everything she's done in the space. She really pioneered injury analysis for this space. But Adam Hutchinson, at Football Guys has been phenomenal.
Yes, he
is a character for sure. A lot of people have feelings about Jesse, but he obviously is in the weeds. He's doing it when it comes to just getting all the information out there. There's several really good analysts out there. The sports, what is it called? Let me get some of that information. Let's see, like Sports Injury Central from what's his name? From David Chow. Again, a guy that's a little controversial. Some people don't love his history, his background. but he puts out good information.
Yeah.
Edwin Porras, he's been with Fantasy
Yes.
Points. He's a huge guy for me. Matthew Betts with fantasy footballers. Who else out there? Jeff Mueller's a phenomenal.
How much does your degree and your knowledge just of biology? Let's tell people you're a chiropractor, right?
Yep.
So you work with sports injuries all the time.
Yeah,
now,
extensively.
You may not be doing the surgery, but you are doing the rehab work to get people back.
Yeah, we have a clinic that has done pretty incredible spinal care and disc injury specialization over the last couple decades. So I've seen a lot.
Does that aid your knowledge though?
It aids me a lot. I mean, obviously, I can interpret all the information that I get out there from these injury analysts. And it helps. Obviously, it's led to me being a little more conservative and cautious with constructing fantasy lineups. I'm a little hesitant with certain injuries for sure. So it definitely influences me. I'm grateful for my professional career and its ability to help me play this game a little more effectively.
I'm going to tell you the one injury that has always bothered me. If a player gets it, I avoid them every time because it seems like it's nothing. Turf toe. They get turf toe. I don't want to have anything to do with it. They can't cut and they can't accelerate. People don't realize how painful that is.
Yeah, any soft tissue injury on weight-bearing joints can become a real chronic problem, and so something like that certainly, hamstring injuries, turf toe, those kind of injuries certainly can linger.
All right, now we want to get to the players though. Daniel Jones, we don't know for sure if he's going back to the Colts or not. We know that they've expressed interest in getting him back, but we don't know if he goes back. I want to know what's his injury going to keep him out for any or most of next year because he had a pretty severe injury.
Yeah, he had an Achilles tear, later on in the season, but Achilles injuries for a quarterback, I mean, you're looking at, 7 to 10 months probably. I think he'll be back for the season. The problem with an Achilles is mobility, right? And a quarterback, obviously a pocket passer, it's less of an issue. We've seen Tom Brady come back from those. Joe Burrow had an ACL. Tom Brady had the ACL. But we've seen quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins try to come back. They're older. Daniel Jones is younger. But one part of Daniel Jones that's made him effective, at least last year, was that mobility, right? And even in the past, from a fantasy perspective, he was a more mobile quarterback, and that allowed him to pick up some fantasy points. He's never been the greatest pocket passer for sure. So I'd be concerned with Daniel Jones because I think his ability to move around in the pocket, gain yards, running the ball is going to be impacted at least, in this next year. Moving forward, I think that there's a chance in the future, like on a dynasty team, if you got him on your roster and you can't move him, he's reasonable to keep on. But for 2026, I wouldn't be invested in Daniel Jones heavily. If he slips later on in drafts, it really comes down to.
Do you even want him as a QB2?
No, I don't. I think that a lot of times with these injuries, if I'm in the draft or if I'm managing a roster, there's always someone else to pick, right? And so a guy like this who hasn't been a monster in fantasy, he's had his moments, but I would certainly fill in a second, a different quarterback too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, with the guy like Daniel Jones with that Achilles injury, he relied too much on his running ability, like Dr. Kevin just said. He relied on it too much, and that was one of the better aspects of him being for fantasy is his rushing ability.
Was it on his right? Was it on his right ankle or his left?
It doesn't.
It does matter because when a right-handed drop back passer drops back, he plants with his right foot, and that's also the foot where he takes the initial step when he's going to take off. If it's on his left foot, it impacts him less than if it's on his right foot, just because of the way he plays the game.
I am not a doctor on that.
Kevin, is that true or not?
It is true. It definitely matters which foot you're pushing off on. But again, it was his right ankle.
Yeah.
I also think that they're obviously not sold on Anthony Richardson. There's been some issues with that quarterback position. They might be wanting to get Daniel Jones on a favorable deal, just to have competition in case they lean towards Richardson, or at least they kind of buffer each other, right? You have two quarterbacks, both kind of with question marks, but depending on if they're going long term with Daniel Jones, I'm sure they'll construct that contract in a way they can get out of if he doesn't get back to to full speed. But he's definitely the type of quarterback I'd be more concerned with this type of injury.
So speaking of quarterbacks, the next one is the quarterback for the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix. The good news is it's a fracture. The bad news, January 17. And this is JC's favorite quarterback. So yeah, he will probably be basing his entire season on your answer here. So do you think he'll be back for the start of the season? And what impact, if any, do you see that on his performance?
Yeah, with a break like that, the bone needs to heal. You can move on. It's not a long recovery. You're looking at 4 to 6 months probably. He should be back for training camp and ready for 2026. The only concern with him is he's injured that same right ankle. He's broken it 3 times, as far as I'm aware.
3 times, wow.
High school, college, and now in the NFL. So redraft. Yeah, I mean, if you like the guy, I'm always going to say, okay, in this round where I might consider Bo Nix, is there someone else who hasn't had a history like this that I might be more comfortable with? I probably lean away. But if you love Bo Nix, he's going to be fully healthy. Whether that ankle can withstand, the NFL, the grind of the NFL, I mean, we'll have to see. Obviously, there's been a history of the same type of injury to the same region of the body, so there's some concern there. But it's not like the injury is going to move into the season and affect whether he's ready or not. He'll be ready.
Just to tweak JC, tell us that you would take JJ McCarthy over Bo Nix.
Well, I do. I will say I have JJ McCarthy on more dynasty teams than I do Bo Nix. Not on purpose. Again, I really think that right now Bo Nix is the better option. But it's close. It's closer than you might want it to be.
Yeah.
Well, earlier, Dr. Kevin, you talked about Daniel Jones and possibly restructuring his contract. Well, Patrick Mahomes did do that. So when we know the awful injury that he sustained later in this season. So late season knee injuries like that, it could take a while for him to, recover. But how long do you think it would take for Mahomes to get back to that scrambling ability, that the elongating plays, so that way that he can get the ball to the receiver? How long do you think we'll see until that Patrick Mahomes is back?
Yeah, that's the question of the day for sure. I think that an injury like that, obviously you look at these position players, wide receivers, running backs a little differently than a quarterback with an ACL. A little easier to return, as a quarterback, except when you're dependent on mobility, there's a problem there. I mean, I think that Mahomes, he's magic. I mean, again, I'm not going to, put anything past him, right? He's had a track record of creating so much magic. And his arm is outstanding. So he might have to change his game a little bit in the short term. Obviously the late injury is a problem. Is he going to be even ready in the beginning? Most likely not at this stage. We'll see. Again, I'm not going to put anything past him, but looking like a later season return. His game is so much of his game is creating magic in the pocket, moving around, and if he loses some of that quickness and ability to do that, his fantasy outlook for 2026 is not ideal. Now, if he starts the season, on IR or whatnot, draft him, stash him. Everybody wants an extra roster spot, right? To start the season, right? If you have IR spots and you can get Mahomes on there and wait him out, maybe down the stretch he comes through.
Especially if you're the Joe Burrow owner.
Yeah, exactly. So, but for Mahomes, really, 2027, I'm sure he'll be, back to creating a lot of headaches out there and doing some great things.
So you don't expect him to be ready at the start of the season? Because I had heard that his rehab was going way better than expected.
Yeah, I think again, we're the quarterback. I mean, there's a chance, the timetable is going to be a little faster. Unfortunately, whenever you hear, rehabs, I mean, you always hear rehabs going better, right?
Yeah,
You always hear rehabs going well. The timeline with when he got hurt, pushing the start of the season, it's up in the air. It's up in the air. I can't say right now, and at the end of February if he's going to be there or not. Obviously, I'm not in the room with him and seeing it firsthand. But the odds are against him being ready to go full strength, full normal Patrick Mahomes at the start of the season.
Well, guys, you want to know who the odds are not against?
Who's that?
The odds are not against the sports affiliation. We're here to stay, baby. We are here to stay. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is the Thursday Checkdown. If you're not checking out any of our awesome shows, if you're not checking out Hypothetical, you're doing yourself an injustice. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, Facebook, YouTube, all of the platforms. Subscribe, love us. And then, like I'm going to tell you right now, Dr. Kevin, I want to hear about the home league, because Football Guys is another company near dear to my heart. And I know that this home league, I've caught a couple episodes. They are dope as hell. And I just want you to talk about that.
Yeah, obviously, I've had the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast for the last few years. It's been amazing to do that. But co-hosting a show with Joey Wright on Football Guys, great opportunity for me to spread more love out there for fantasy leagues and the commissioner stuff. I'd say, I created the Commissioner's Playbook, this a book that came out last July for commissioners, ways to create, a special league experience. And this show is really kind of a spinoff of that, right? So
wow.
a lot of great stuff in that book for ways to keep leagues engaged, more fun, maximizing the fantasy experience. And that's what we do. Joey and we have a lot of fun sharing ideas, sharing different tips and tricks on how to make fantasy leagues fun and more enjoyable, and also kind of sharing what we see out there too. There's a lot of people out there doing cool things in their fantasy leagues, and we want to put a spotlight on that kind of stuff. So the home league show with Joey Wright and myself on Football Guys, it launched at the end of last year. We're putting a lot of plans together to really make it a really fun off season into the fantasy season ahead.
All right, we do have a question from the chat room. Do you play IDP leagues?
I personally do not a lot. I've done a little bit in the past. It's not my thing. I respect it though. I think that it's phenomenal when people say, you learn so much more about the game, and in football, you enjoy football more because you're seeing both sides of it. I respect it, but time to dedicate to it, it's next level. I respect everybody that plays it, but I do not.
Okay, why do they call it turf toe? Last question before we move on.
I don't know the origin of the slang there, but obviously it's often associated with with running movement, right? It's turf, it's the ground, right? You often injure that while you're moving on the floor.
All right, it's more prevalent on artificial surfaces too, right?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. So, any other quarterbacks that you're aware of that had season-ending injuries?
Those are the three main ones that I'm aware of.
All right, let's go to the running backs. Now, this guy probably doesn't matter at all, but I wanted to save some of the better players for my two co-hosts. Najee Harris, okay, he becomes an unrestricted free agent while I'm in Thailand. I'm going to Thailand next week. And, even though his injury was early in the season, it was pretty severe, and that combined with his age, what do you see as the status for next year?
Yeah, I've never been a huge Najee guy. I mean, obviously he put in a lot of effort in Pittsburgh. He was solid those first couple of years. Obviously, he started out getting some volume with the Chargers last year. But man, an Achilles tear with a running back, it's just something I typically stay away from, short term and long term. I think that it's just a brutal injury. The movement, the mobility, the acceleration, the explosiveness that is needed with healthy Achilles tendons. It takes me a bit to get past that. And for a guy like Najee, who I don't think is an elite running back at this stage, man, I'm staying away from Najee Harris. And I wish him the best. Hopefully it works out for him. And again, maybe a late round flyer at the end of a draft,
Do
but
players
it's,
come back from an Achilles tear?
I mean, there's been a couple, but most struggle, and even if they do come back, I mean, J.K. Dobbins just recently, I think, was the most recent one, and he played pretty well.
Yeah, but
long term,
there's rumors he's gone from Denver right now.
yeah, it's just a rough one. It's really a terrible injury, not something, especially in the running back position, that I like to lean on when it comes to managing a fantasy roster.
Okay, so Indianapolis Colt fans are going to be worried about Jonathan Taylor. He had an injured ankle and a torn ligament and in his thumb. And so, but he's 27, which is approaching that running back age cliff. And his history, he's had some injuries, both some ankle injuries, a knee injury, and a thumb injury. What would you be having any concerns about him as a player going into 2026?
Not on paper. I mean, I think Jonathan Taylor obviously had a phenomenal season in 2025. Looking at those numbers, though, down the stretch, it faded a little bit. So he is likely going to have a higher ADP going into 2026, where there might be just other guys in the room that I'd prefer to take. He put a lot of miles on this last season, took a ton of volume. So just from a draft standpoint, I would probably pick someone else, because, again, I think that ADP is going to be high. But if you're worried about his health, I think he's going to be, I think that next year he should be in good shape, full speed for 2026. It's just a matter of if there's someone, in that first end of the first round or so that you want more, that you think might have a little more upside, a little safer, then I'd go that direction. But there shouldn't be anything that gets in the way of him being healthy and ready to go.
His fading corresponded with Daniel Jones's injury.
Yes. Yeah.
So
for sure.
if there's no threat from the passing game, he's going to struggle this year too.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
if there's a threat from the passing game, then he should be. I would think he'd be fine this year.
Yeah. Well,
28. I mean, he might be the peak. It might be his best year. This year, last year, and this year might be the peak of his career. But should be full steam ahead.
Yeah. Well, from one Jonathan to another Jonathan, we're talking about Jonathan Brooks, and this is rare. I don't know how many running backs have sustained two significant injuries in a span of 13 months. That's like super rare. So with that, I mean, what type of expectations are we thinking about when it comes to Brooks's return?
Because he does have a great future, right? I mean, he's still a young kid.
Yeah, it's hard because, every situation's unique. But those injuries can be compounding on so many levels, just conditioning wise. It takes a lot, to recover from an injury, to go through that whole process kind of in the dark. You put in a lot of effort to get back, and another ending injury happens. It's pretty brutal. I have very low expectations just because of the past. But meaning that he could be a great value. I don't think he's going to be highly drafted, in the top portions of the draft, of fantasy drafts. So he's the kind of guy that has upside, but is going to have obviously a low floor. But those flyers at the end of drafts, he's the kind of guy that fits that spot, because, again, he's not going to have a high ADP. Who knows? You never know what can happen with a guy. I always, with creating a fantasy lineup, I want movement at the end of my roster. I want to be able to cut some guys that don't work out and add guys that do, or that I think might. And he's the kind of guy you take a flyer on. A worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. But my expectations are low, but the value might be just low enough that I could steal some of that.
So next time you guys see me, if you go to the expo, smack me in the head for asking this next question. I just hate asking this.
We're all lining up for that on.
Running back Austin Eckler suffered an injury very similar to Najee Harris's. He's a different style back than Najee. He's not a power back. He's more of a scat back. What do you see? Is his diagnosis about the same as Najee's?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little, on paper it's a little worse, just given the age, his usage. I love the way that he, I love Austin. I think he's obviously a huge piece of this fantasy community. I've actually had the chance to interview him a couple times. He's a great guy. And he puts in a lot of work. Even earlier on in his career, I mean, that guy was putting in the work. He got to where he was because of effort and drive and determination. So I'm not going to put anything past Austin getting back. Obviously, as a fantasy asset, I don't have high expectations given the type of injury. He's got to find a team. He's going to have to find a team that'll take a chance. So hopefully it works out for him. He should be
a cheap option, right?
For sure. So it's just a matter of, does a cheap option appeal to him, right? Does he, you don't want to put in the work if you're not getting paid what you might expect to deserve. If he wants to keep playing, he should be able to find a roster spot. And from a
veteran minimum is not chump change.
It's not. No, it's not.
It's not change.
It's not. So I, hopefully it works out for him. On a fantasy note, I don't have high expectations.
Well, and one more running back, and now we're going to the others. The much younger player, Quinton Judkins, the Cleveland Browns running back. He had dislocated ankle late in December. They say he's on track to return for the start of the season, but again, they says are often pretty optimistic. What are your thoughts on Judkins and coming back to the Browns?
Yeah, sure was an ugly injury. Did not look good visually. But I saw a report earlier today that said that he looks to be in fine shape for the start of training camp. So should be in good shape. That type of injury, I think he's young. It's not an Achilles tear. It's not an ACL. I think he'll be in good shape.
Awesome.
Dr. Kev, we got to talk about Cam Scatterboo. You talked about a nasty injury. This one was brutal. We saw it live on TV. I believe it was week 8. The great thing about Scatterboo is that he's young. Can you speak though more on this? Because I know he had a few injuries, but can you speak a little bit? I never heard of this being in your foot, a deltoid ligament. Can you speak a little bit on that? I always thought the deltoids were in the shoulders or something. So
the ankle is a very complex joint. Lots of tendons, ligaments. It's very complex, and that injury again was as ugly as it gets. At this stage, I mean, it looks like he's gonna get back to the grind. And again, I think these injuries. It's important to note, when these running back or when these players are young, better chance they can get through it. I think an older injury or an older back or older receiver, older quarterback that has a soft tissue injury like this, it's a lot more concerning. But with this, in a case like this, Scatterboo is expected to get back. Hopefully he is. I got him in some dynasty spots. I'm rooting for him, and I think he's great for the game. His drive, determination, tenacity. It's everything you want to see out there on the field. So for the Giants, for Jackson Dart fans, for teams that are play people out there that have him in your lineups or in your dynasty teams, I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, and you got to love the new coach. I mean, he's a proven coach there, so that doesn't hurt at all. I'm going over to running back James Conner. He had a foot/ankle injury that I can't find anything about. It's shrouded in mystery to me. And when you combine it with his contract status and the expectation that he might be a cap casualty, what do you see? Does he have prospects for next year?
Yeah, I think he's another one, a little older. You're right. He's got some cap issues. I can see Arizona, especially a team like that, just moving on. I think that Connor is a great vet to add to a team. I think I agree with you. I think that injury has been a little elusive, figuring out exactly what the situation is. So I'm rooting for him. I can't give you a ton of information on what's happening with him right now, except for the fact that again he's a vet on a team that is in a really tough division. I could see them moving on, but moving on from a guy like that, it gives them a chance to maybe find a fit that is
better for him.
Is better for him. Yeah, exactly.
And another running back, Zach Charbonnet, injured in the playoffs against the 49ers.
Yeah.
Torn ACL. A lot of interest in part because a lot of Kenneth Walker fans were able to finally see him take over the entire role of lead back. Charbonnet, though, that late in the season, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, well, first of all, go Hawks. Let's go Super Bowl champs. But no, I hate to see it. I loved it for Ken Walker getting that spotlight. I'm a huge Walker guy, just being a Seahawks fan. But Charbonnet was a huge part of the team, and you hate to see it because you're exactly right. An ACL that late in the season. I mean, he's not going to be, at this form. The form he was before the accident, or before the injury. To start the season, obviously. And he's one of those kind of guys that time of year that you got to look to the next season. He should be in great shape 2027, fully recovered, ready to go. If he makes it back to the end of 2026, I mean, hopefully he does. But I wouldn't expect it. And I don't know if you're, again, looking at assembling a fantasy roster, if he's the kind of guy that you'd want to take up a spot just because he will be in a role, most likely a dual role. Again, with a return later in the season, it's just not a good outlook fantasy wise for 2026 for Charbonnet.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of taking a spot, Miles Sanders, Dr. Kevin. I mean, that's all he is on your. If you get him on your fantasy team, that's all he is a spot. I mean, he had a couple of games last year, but I want to know about, because there's a couple of injuries that I've never really heard about. That deltoid on your foot that we just talked about, scatterboot, and then this one here, this called a chondral tissue gaff surgery. What is that? That doesn't sound good. It sounds like it's gonna be on the shelf for a long time.
Surgery sounds good.
Yeah. So I'm just like, what is all of this? Like what is the timetable for Miles Sanders if he wants to even try to get back on the field?
Well, yeah, I mean, Miles Sanders, he's been off my radar in fantasy for a while, so I'm not even thinking about that. But obviously, there's a connective tissue, some cartilage issues there where he had to have surgery. But I don't think he's on anybody's radar fantasy wise. Wish the best for him, but certainly don't expect him to be a major player in fantasy.
Yeah, I think the same thing can be said about Antonio Gibson. I think he was just released too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any difference with him? Is he pretty much not going to play as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think a guy like Gibson, I'm sure he'll make a comeback, get back out there, fill a roster spot lower on the bench. But I don't think he's going to get back to kind of what was hoped of him a few years ago.
Okay. Any other running backs anybody has? Nope. All right, let's go to. I love this. I got this guy. I really
you did get one of the best ones.
And because I like the Harbaugh family because of what Jim did for Michigan. I'm a big Michigan fan, so I'm pulling for John. I love Jackson Dart. His wide receiver though used to be. You've been playing almost as long as I have. It used to take rookie wide receivers. It took a wide receiver 2 to 3 years to actually understand the NFL game and break out. All right. Very few wide receivers broke out in year 1 or year 2. Malik Neighbors could be one of those year 1, year 2 guys. He was breaking out when he went down. But he suffered his injury early enough that I suspect you're going to be pretty positive about the kid. Is he ready for the start of 26? And if he is, do you think he's going to be ready to go full bore?
Well, that's the hope. Obviously, ahead of schedule is the recent things I've heard, which is great. Again, super talented. Love Malik Neighbors. I will say that my downfalls in 2025 in the fantasy space, playing the game, it was because of losing Malik. I had him in a dynasty league and 2 redraft leagues. I was big on Malik.
You should have added Michael Wilson when he went down because Wilson took over in the second half.
Yeah, no, for sure. But what a talent. Timeline, he got his injury was late September. The surgery was late October, meaning that there was some little bit more injury that, just beyond just an ACL.
Did they do rehab before the surgery? Is that why they wait?
Sometimes that's the case. Sometimes they got to just wait till swelling comes down. Sometimes they have to do a little bit of rehab before an injury because of a secondary injury, and then they'll do the ACL. But late October, I mean, timeline really, he should be there. He should be participating in in some later offseason stuff. He should be ready to go on paper right now. And he's young. I think that long term, I think he's gonna be fine.
Now I've heard that ACLs are 9 to 12 months recovery, 18 months full recovery, back to normal speed and everything. Is that still accurate? Or
Yeah,
are today's medical procedures better than they used to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think that everybody's gonna be a little different. That's why there's timelines. But I will say 9 to 12 is pretty straightforward for an ACL. The 18, the 12 to 18 for full recovery. I think that a lot of them are getting back to full speed at that 12-month mark, but there's more to it than just speed, right? All the trust in that knee, the trust in that injury, mobility, quickness, acceleration, so many.
That's exactly what I've always heard was the problem. It wasn't the physical aspect of the knee, it was the player's confidence in the knee to make those cuts. Yeah.
Yeah, the mental component of an injury recovery is a big deal. And I think they have to be able to trust it before they can push it to get back to how they were before. So I always like, if I'm looking at running backs, receivers, I always like to get them, the second year post injury, unless they slide. If we're talking about fantasy drafts and where to pick players, if they slide, take the chance. But typically, I'll look left and look right at that player and say, okay, is there, would I rather have, Puka or would I rather have Malik? Right? I'd rather have certain guys that that are.
Well,
that
let
are
me
healthier.
ask you this: if you're in a keeper league, say you keep 4 players, okay, not a dynasty, not where you keep everybody, no IR, keeper league, you've got Malik. Your last spot is coming down to Malik or Nico Collins. Who you taking?
I like Malik. I'll take Malik. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because Collins is good. Has probably more injury, questions or concerns than Neighbors. So I would, as much as I'm a Texan fan.
Well, I love Nico, Michigan guy, but
okay.
And he's also consistently a top 24 wide receiver.
Yeah, but he's also consistently
hurt.
And the best ability is availability.
So, exactly. He's consistently inconsistent, I think. It's a little too much of a roller coaster for me.
Speaking of speed, but going to the other extreme, Tyreek Hill. Not going to be a Dolphin. I've even heard rumors that, maybe the Chiefs. But I've
heard Buffalo rumors more than the Chiefs because they've had the Chiefs thing before, and neither one of them really wants a reunite.
They're saying
they don't want to reunite.
They're saying he's recovering well, but again, always optimistic. And the other thing is that he's, as I said, 31 years old. So, what are your thoughts on Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I expect him to be back and ready to play. I just don't expect him to be Tyreek Hill. It's that age, those kind of injuries late in a career. They'll have.
You don't see 4.2 speed out of him anymore.
Probably not. So I'd lean away. I wouldn't take the bait. He's got.
What if he went to Buffalo though? What if he went to Buffalo? I mean, that'd be great quarterback. He would instantly become their top wide receiver.
Yeah, I think that situation obviously matters. You got to find the right home. Fortunately, right now, we got months ahead before maybe not too long before we start seeing where these players land. You got to find the right home. If the home fits, I mean, that's going to raise my ability to assess ADP.
But will his injury impact his play more than his age?
Yeah, well, it's hard. I think it definitely will. I think that he was on the down slope prior to the injury. Then you have an injury like this, at this age. I mean, it all compounds for me. I stay away from this exact type of situation. But if he finds the right landing spot, that's going to raise my desire to put him on a roster.
Yeah, I want to talk about Mike Evans. he's one of my favorite wide receivers in the league. The consistency is there. He's done it year in and year out. He missed 10 games though last season, and it was due to, I mean, mainly that broken collarbone, and that's the freak things that happen. But if he comes back, from the collarbone specifically, I mean, he's pretty much a full go. He shouldn't have any other issues. It's just like, can you sustain that fall? Is that what we're looking at with him?
Yeah, and I think that he should be fine on that front, right? It's just another guy, a veteran later on, on the downside. Is he worth the shot? I think that his track record,
Right.
makes him a little more, reliable. Again, I wouldn't overdraft him, but if you want to take a flyer on him, there's a chance that he can create a little bit more magic because he's had a heck of a career.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think if he changes his game a little bit, I think that can help keep him a little bit more safe. He tries to go for those go balls all the time, and he gets them for most of the time too. But that's when he gets banged up. So that
inside the 10, he's money.
Yeah,
always been money.
I think if he can kind of, like the greats, like Jordan changed his game, Kobe changed his game. Like, some of these guys, sometimes they can change their game. I think if
they don't play quite the same game though. They're not getting hit.
Yeah,
they might get bumped a little bit, but they're not getting.
No, but they changed at a certain point when they got a certain age. The injuries started piling up. They changed the way they played. And
well,
they
that's true.
That.
Yeah, I will say I'm pretty sure Jerry Rice caught double-digit touchdowns once upon a time for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
So a guy that has an affinity towards the end zone, the red zone, put him at the end of your fantasy roster, plug him in on bye weeks, and maybe you'll get some work.
Okay, I feel good about Mike Evans now.
What about Josh Palmer?
I mean, he's a guy that I had on several dynasty rosters, hoping he would be be something. I just don't think he's turned into what I was hoping for. Low expectations. I would just take a flyer on him potentially if he's in the right spot. There's no one else around him taking targets, but I not a huge fan.
Okay, so I played tight end in high school. Now, in high school, I went to a small school. I weighed 155 pounds, 6 foot tall, 155, blocking down because we ran a lot of. It wasn't a wishbone; it was a full house tee, but it's like a wishbone. You're running triple option, and I had to block down on 300-pound tackles. All right, but whenever we had to pass, they'd split me out because I had the best hands on the team. All right. Never had the best speed, but I had the best hands. Small school. So tight end's a position near and dear to my heart. And I love George Kittle, but he tore his Achilles so late.
Yeah.
At his age, is he even coming back at all?
I think he will because he's got that, he's got a love for football. He's got a love for his 49ers that's unmatched. But yeah, the odds are against, getting back to how he ever played, with an Achilles at that age, that position, just, the physicality that's necessary. It's a sad one for sure. I think he'll be back. I think that,
will he be back at the start of the year, mid-year, late?
He should. I mean, really, timeline-wise, he definitely has a shot to be back at the start of the season.
Oh, I didn't expect that.
I didn't expect that either.
So, I mean, those are usually like 8-10 months.
I thought it was a 12-month injury.
No, I mean, it can be in some situations, but most of the time, 6 to 7 is like, wow, we're ahead of schedule. It's happened. It's possible. Usually that 8 to 10 is a normal window.
When was he hurt? Do you recall?
I mean, it was late. It was
later in the season.
Yeah. So again,
he's going to miss some time.
Yeah, he's likely training camp's gonna be rough, but can he be there day one? It's possible.
Okay.
Another tight end, Tucker Kraft. I think he's probably most interested in this answer. He had a torn ACL in November. Had the surgery. Again, much optimism, but there's questions about timetables. So, what can you tell us about Tucker Kraft and his return to the pack?
Yeah, he fits the timetable to get back for next season at this stage. I don't know exactly when the surgery took place, but again, November ACL, 9, 10, 11, 12 months in that window. So it's definitely possible that he's back. I would say tight end, little easier to get back to than say a running back or wide receiver, just because of the acceleration and the mobility that's needed for those
Yeah, but he's got
positions.
to push on big guys.
But he certainly does. He certainly does. But the ACL, a little more start stop, forward backwards kind of activity. Not the same as cutting like a wide receiver, running back.
How is an ACL on the lateral movement of the joint? I mean, when you're pushing, sometimes you're not pushing straight ahead. You're actually pushing from the side. How does that impact the knee?
So most movements are dynamic. You're moving. You're affecting all ligaments and tendons in those areas because certain ligaments are going to have to stabilize for movements that aren't their primary movement, they're secondary movement. So it's all required. You need a fully recovered ACL to get those lateral movements because it's part of the stabilization of the knee. So,
but the tight end's going to be able to wear a brace where a running back probably.
When I watch Tucker Kraft play football, I don't think, man, look at that quickness, look at that ultra smooth movement. I think this guy has great hands.
Playing really well last year as a wide receiver.
Phenomenal.
They put him out in the slot. They line him up wide to get mismatches, and
so
I thought he was playing extremely well last year.
Very good. Like he was another one that devastated one of my fantasy rosters, losing him, and I was high on him going in. So it's just he has incredible hands. He moves well.
I need to know who you're drafting because you seem to be getting all the injured players.
It was a rough 2025. I'm telling you, one of my main teams, I had Burrow. I had a Tucker Kraft, I had Neighbors, and I had a couple more. It was rough. I was cursed, but I still love the game because I love my league.
Well, and you know who I love? I love Brock Bowers. And it's not just because I'm a Raiders fan. But Brock Bowers had that PCL pull last season, and I was reading up on it. Those can be lingering. I mean, all injuries can linger, but I've heard these can be nagging. So is that something? Is that true? Is this something that he needs to, or fantasy managers need to be aware of when drafting him next year in redrafts?
Yeah, I don't think moving forward into next season there should be concerns entering the season. Those kind of injuries are nagging because a lot of times you can play with them. Right. It's unless you have to shut it down completely, which obviously it gets that. If your team is terrible, they might lean towards, hey, let's just shut it down. If your team is great, you might continue to play with it, be nagged by it. It'll affect your ability to play quite a bit. So definitely a problem during season, but long term, I mean, there shouldn't be any chronic issues that come from it. So he should be, top of the charts next season.
Okay.
Now, Jatavian Sanders was having his breakout as a tight end. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying he was on pace for 80 receptions and 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. He wasn't anywhere near those numbers, but he was showing promise. And he's a young receiver. His injury, I don't think was as severe. It's a broken fibula ankle area. I think that's like a 6 to 8 week recovery, typically, depending on how badly it's broken, of course. What are you expecting? Full recovery? Do you think that he'll be ready for training camp?
Oh yeah, he should definitely be in good shape for training camp. Full recovery expected with a break like that. Bone needs to heal. Problem with serious breaks, if there's a bunch of soft tissue injury alongside of it, but in his case, I'm pretty sure. I think it was pretty clean, so he should be fine. And I'm hopeful that he can put something together because definitely quite talented coming out of Texas. Hoping the best for him for sure.
One last tight end, and that's Dalton Kincaid. He apparently had a torn PCL from 2024s that he went into the 25 season with. He also had hamstring injuries. But it seemed like he finally was playing up the level that, people were expecting when he was drafted. And I think the Bills are even already saying that they're interested in extending his contract. What would be any thoughts that you have on his recovery and, whether he'll continue to progress or whether injuries will continue to wear him down?
I liked where he was going towards the end of the season. anytime you have an older injury that's kind of been lingering, it can be a problem. But I assume this offseason, that'll be the focus to get him right. He should be in great shape for 2026 and in a good position where, I think he's going to be needed for Buffalo to get back to where they've been the last few years.
Well, they're talking about getting rid of Dawson Knox, so he'll definitely get a bigger role if he's coming back, if he's healthy.
Yes, indeed.
Go ahead, Greg.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I love the tight end talk. I have one more tight end that we need to talk about, and it's Zach Ertz. He said he plans to come back for his 14th season, but Dr. Kevin, it's an ACL injury. Do you see him coming back, or do you see this happening after rehab at the age 35? I mean, it's a lot. And hasn't he had a knee injury before?
Yeah, he has in the past, and that's a rough one. Obviously, age, but vet, if he can get back, timeline, he should be able to see some time in 2026 if he can get back. Obviously, I wouldn't expect the start of the season. I think because that injury was later, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But at the same time, people like those veteran tight ends on their roster. I think that good leadership, a team with some young, talented tight ends could certainly use him. He's obviously been a great asset to the NFL, great player with a lot of knowledge to drop onto a young tight end. So hopefully, if his desire is to get back, he can get back out there. Well, obviously, fantasy-wise, I wouldn't expect a whole lot.
And it looked like
Isn't he their tush push guy too? Isn't he the guy that lines up under center for the tush push? I think Ertz did that last year, actually.
No, Ertz is playing for Commanders, but the Commanders also had Ben Sinnott, who was drafted early or drafted relatively early. A lot of excitement about him, and then he was hurt last year or the previous year. And so,
are you done? I didn't mean to cut you off, Rick. Are you done?
I guess so.
Okay. Well, we got a couple IDP guys we want to get to, and we're at the end of the show almost. Apologies to all you IDP guys out there. We're going to limit how many we talk about. I want to hit Micah Parsons, late season torn ACL. We know the recovery time. I don't know. Kevin, can he make it back for most of the season at least?
Yeah, I think there'll be a high priority getting him back. Again, ACL, looking at a 9-12 month window. He should be able to get back into the season at some point. Will he be the same as same version of Micah Parsons that we know in 2026? I don't think so. But getting back into 2027, he should be in great shape. So long term, should be fine. 2026, and unfortunately, with how late that injury was, it's a concern.
49er defensive end Nick Bosa tore his right ACL, but in September. He had a torn ACL in the past. I think it was his left, though. What can you tell us about his timetable?
Yeah, same thing. 9 to 12 months. It's pretty typical with those ACLs. Hit, the injury in September. Yeah, he should be fully ready to go. They're gonna have to get him back to compete with my Seahawks.
Well, I'm gonna throw another 49er at you, Seahawks. So it's Fred Warner. I mean, look, this guy here, he's probably one of the best linebackers in the league. But I'll say this, he tried to make a push to come back in the playoffs, and they just didn't make it far enough because of your Seahawks. So do you expect him to be 100%? He should be good for camp, right? He should be good.
Yeah, he should. He should be in great shape, and he's phenomenal. He's scary guy to play for sure. So
yeah, he's one of the funnest linebackers to watch, man.
Yeah, he's a great guy. If I'm a Niners fan, I'm a huge fan of his. So if I was a Niners fan, I'd be a huge fan. So he should be in great shape.
Okay, so defensive backfield, Marshawn Lattimore, expected to be a cap casualty because of his late injury, and he's kind of had a recurring injury history recently. Do you think he's worth picking up by an NFL team at this point? And if so, do you think he's worthy of fantasy pickup?
Well, again, on the IDP front, it's going to be hard for me to predict that. When it comes to him, I think that a veteran in the secondary is appealing to a lot of teams out there. There's a lot of bad secondaries out there. I think that he'll find a job. I think he'll find a spot. whether he's impactful in IDP, I wouldn't expect too much of that. But I'll leave it for those IDP experts to say.
Earlier tonight, we talked about Achilles injuries. Martin Emerson with the Browns. I know they'd love to get him back alongside Denzel Ward and Tyson Campbell, but Achilles injury, what are your thoughts on his ability to come back?
Yeah, it's going to be rough for 2026. I think, again, timeline, it should work for a full recovery, to get back to full playing time. But the ability is going to be impacted on the field.
And this was an injury, it was a non-contact injury in practice in July. So
yeah, so he should be fine for getting back. It's just, again, an Achilles for a position like that, the odds are against him being back to how he was before.
Gotcha.
Hey guys, I got to say this next one. I am so glad it's Tipp and not me.
Why?
Namdi, I can say Namdi. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Yeah, Namdi Metabukwe. He has a neck injury, Dr. Kevin, and that's different for those interior line guys. That they rely on their leverage, they rely on absorbing all that constant contact. So, he said he's optimistic, but from a doctor's standpoint, and you are a doctor of the body, especially. What do you think about this one? Because this could be devastating.
Yeah, neck injuries, I mean, are significant. We're dealing with nerve compression. We're dealing with most likely some disc injuries, most likely what it is. And so that means you're going to lose disc height. You're going to lose the amount of space there is for nerves to exit the spine. There's definite risk. You've seen a lot of players. I can think of like a Chris Carson who popped up. Always got a neck injury, and then his career shut down. Not too long after that. So it depends on the neck injury. Most of the time, when it's something significant, it's going to have a long-term impact on the player's ability to get out there. Weird to see like a Peyton Manning have a disc replacement, get out there and play effectively. But that interior line is a little nastier than some other positions out there. So it's a problem, and it's also a problem when you have any nerve compression, irritation. It's going to affect muscle tone in the arms. It's going to affect strength. It certainly can affect strength, and those kind of things are obviously important interior line.
You used to always see these big things in the back
Collars
that would protect the neck. You never see them anymore.
What happened to those?
I don't know, but you just never see them anymore. So that's our show for tonight. I want to thank Kevin for coming on. Thank you. And Tipp did a wonderful job. I want to remind people, I'm gone next week for 3 to 4 weeks, so it'll be their show for them. Kevin, tell us again where everybody can find your work.
Fantasy Football Unlimited. Check out the website. It's a portal into the industry, just offering links to every brand and content creation out there. The Commissioner's Playbook, definitely check it out. You can find that on Amazon. If you're looking to make your league extra special, it's a great blueprint to do that. And then at Football Guys, check out the Home League show. Lots of fun with Joey Wright and myself. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So definitely check that out.
All right. Now I want to say, everybody, we really appreciate the people that give us support behind the scenes. JC and Iggy are instrumental in putting this show on tonight. Rick did almost all the production work. He did a great job for us tonight. Applaud for that. But again, that hypotheticals is so cool. You really need to subscribe to the YouTube channel for the sports affiliation. If you see the QR code up on your screen, that takes you to the website for the sports affiliation. If you go to YouTube, well, for me, it's on this way. Yeah, you guys are pointing the wrong way for my screen.
I'm pointing the right way.
I'm touching it right now.
Oh, I'm not?
It's that way. Yeah. But anyway, Dr. Kevin, thank you. Get to youtube.com, look up the sports affiliation, and subscribe. I want to get these guys monetized, and I need 1,000 subscribers to be monetized, and they're so close. We only need about 30 more subscribers. So folks, go subscribe, please. We
Man,
really
go
would
tell
appreciate
Pookie, Nook, Ray Ray, all of them.
it. That's right. That's our show for the night. And we
y'all.
really want to thank you. And Rick, you can take us home.